The three questions on this handout, Unit Conversions, the Basics quiz, are practice for your real quiz tomorrow. There are three different kinds of problems. There's one with multiple unit conversions, one that requires you to find the circumference first, and one that requires several conversions of the same unit. So we'll start off with number one. The instructions say to include appropriate units in your answers, show all work, no work is no credit. So you can use the method that I showed you in class using ratios and conversion ratios, or you could use your own method, but in any case you need to show your steps so that I can follow your work tomorrow. So at maximum speed, this is number one, a rabbit can move 35 miles per hour. What is the distance to the nearest foot a rabbit can move in 1 second at maximum speed? So here is the unit that I'm starting with, unit rate. So 35 miles per hour, and I'm going to write that as a ratio, 35 miles over 1 hour. And I need to do two conversions. They want me to find to the nearest foot how quickly the rabbit can move in 1 second. So that means I'm going to be changing the miles into feet and the hours into seconds. Now it doesn't matter which unit I change first. I am going to choose miles, but there's no reason that I couldn't choose to change the hours first. Since I'm going to be changing miles, I want the miles unit to cancel out. I'm going to write miles on the bottom of my conversion ratio. And I'm going to replace it with feet. So I'm going to write feet on the top. Doing this allows me to eventually cancel out my miles. I need a conversion factor, however. I need to know how many feet there are in a mile, and the problem gives that to me right here. So there are 5,280 feet in 1 mile. So that's going to take care of the miles. Now I'm going to take care of the hours. Hours start off in the bottom here under my ratio in the beginning. So I'm going to put hours up in the top so I can cancel them out. I'm going to replace hours with seconds. So I'll write seconds in the bottom. And then I need conversion factors. I need numbers. So every 1 hour is the same as 3,600 seconds. Remember that 1 hour has 60 minutes, and then there are 60 seconds in every minute. So 60 times 60 is 3,600. Now I'm going to go through and let me change my color here. Let's see here. Change to red. I'm going to do some canceling out. So I'm going to cancel out my miles first of all. They're gone. Then I can cancel out my hours. And then I'm going to read across the top. I've got 35 times 5,280 feet. So 35 times 5,280 feet. That's what's on the top. And on the bottom I've got 1 times 1 times 3,600 seconds. 3,600 seconds. And I'll just pop all of those numbers into a calculator. 35 times 5,280 divided by 3,600 equals 5.3 repeating. Sorry, 51.3 repeating. 51.3 repeating feet per second. Now I'll go back into the problem and see where I'm supposed to round to, if at all. And it says to the nearest foot. So I'm going to round my answer to 51 feet per second. And there's my answer. Take a look at number 2. Oil is drained from a tank at a rate of 625 gallons per hour. At this rate, how many quarts are drained from this tank in 1 minute? Where 4 quarts are the same as 1 gallon. So I'm changing 625 gallons for every 1 hour. And once again, I'm going to need to change the gallons, and I'm going to need to change the hours. It doesn't matter which way I go first. I started on the top the last time. I'll start on the bottom this time. So I'm going to be canceling out hours. I'm going to replace them with minutes. And the conversion factor, conversion ratio for hours and minutes is 1 hour is the same as 60 minutes. And then I'm going to change gallons into quarts. So I put gallons on the bottom so that it can cancel out with the 625 gallons that are on the top. I write quarts on the top so that they can replace the gallons, and then I need a conversion factor, a conversion ratio, 4 quarts for every 1 gallon. And change colors here again. Cross off gallons, cross off hours, and then we'll write across. 625 times 4 quarts over 60 minutes. Pop that into the calculator. 625 times 4, divide that by 60, 41.6 repeating, 41.6 repeating quarts per minute. And let's see, how many quarts? It's really not telling me how to round. So I could round to the nearest whatever I wanted to. I think I'll round to the nearest whole quart, about 42 quarts per minute. And because that problem isn't specifying where to round to, tomorrow on the quiz I'll really accept what you choose to round to. Out in the world, you would need to consider your context to decide where to round to, or to round off, or to leave it exact. I could write this as a fraction, so 0.6 repeating is the same as 2/3, so I could write this as 41 2/3 quarts per minute as well. Last question. Last question is the circumference over distance question. A freestyle unicycle wheel has a diameter of 20 inches. How many times will the wheel turn in 1 mile? So this is the problem that I've done before on previous videos, where you have a circular object, in this case a unicycle wheel, and that unicycle wheel is turning multiple times along a road, and the road is exactly 1 mile in length, and we want to know how many times that wheel is going to turn. And every time that wheel turns around 1 time, we're really measuring its circumference. So the first step to this problem is to figure out what the circumference is. And circumference is pi times the diameter. The diameter is given to me in inches, so circumference of this wheel is pi times 20 inches. And I'm not going to put this in the calculator. I'm going to leave it exact. I'm going to leave this value exact with pi still in the answer as pi, not 3.14 or 3.145 or just 3. I'm going to leave it as pi. And the reason that I'm leaving it exact is that I still have some calculations to do. If I round now in the beginning of the problem, I'm going to end up with an error that is compounded by continuing to do calculations on that rounding. So now I have the circumference. I need to figure out how many circles, how many circumferences there are in that 1 mile. The second step is going to be to change the mile into inches because my circumference right now is given to me in inches. So I know that 1 mile equals 5,280 feet. And I need to change this into inches, so I'm going to multiply that 5,280 feet by 12. If you want to set this up the way we have been setting them up, 5,280 feet over 1 times feet on the bottom, inches on the top, so we can cancel out units. They're 12 inches in 1 foot. I'll cancel out my feet and multiply 5,280 by 12. So back to the calculator we go. 5,280 times 12 is 63,360. 63,360 inches. That's the distance that this unicycle is going to travel. How many times will that wheel turn over the course of the 6,360 inches? Well, we can find that out by dividing. 63,360 divided by 20 pi. Calculator again. 63,360 divided by, and I'm going to use parentheses here because I'm dividing by the 20 and the pi. 20 times pi. 1008.405 yada 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 times 1008.4. And once again, the problem doesn't specify how many times or where to round to, so I'm going to just round to the nearest revolution, 1008. My answer is 1008 revolutions. A revolution is just 1 turn. So this problem had a couple of steps. First step was to figure out what the circumference was. Second step was to change the feet into inches. Third step was to divide that total distance in inches by the circumference.